Fran, welcome to the FitBoss Podcast. Really appreciate you making the time.
Great to be here.
I'm really looking forward to this conversation for a couple of reasons, not least of which is the fact that I think you've got a story that is going to make a lot of people sort of pause and really ask themselves a kind of a few hard questions. You know, there's going to be questions around what balance actually means, you know, how they're managing the demands of career, family, and health, and whether, you know, the way they're actually operating is sustainable in long term. Because, you know, I think from the outside looking in, your life looks a lot like kind of what some people are aiming for in terms of like you've got a strong career in tech, you've got your family, you've got your fitness, your health, and your fitness business as well. But behind that, you know, you've spoken about burning the candle on both ends maybe and pushing things a little bit too hard into the red zone, and ultimately having to have a couple of pivotal moments where you had to do a hard reset and reevaluate what actually the word balance means to you. So look, for people who are meeting you for the first time, it'd be great for you to start with you know, your background journey and just kind of give an overview of what kind of led you to where you are today.
No, look, first of all, thanks for having me. Great to have this conversation. I think, like, from my perspective, I'm a dad. I'm recently in my 40s. I've two kids, 5 and 7. I've been in technology or tech sales, for about 20 years. And I've played sport or been an athlete, I suppose, more of my life for nearly 40 years. So I played a lot of football, played a lot of hockey or field hockey, as people might know it as well. And then I've gradually had this kind of soft obsession with the gym over time. But yeah, there's a few kind of, I suppose, pivotal moments in the last few years where I kind of jumped a bit more deeply into the fitness industry and trying to build a community there and help people. So that's probably a roundabout spiel.
Yeah. And what I mean, so just on the fitness thing, first of all, what was it that initially attracted you towards that? Was it from more of a mental health side? Is you know, some people get into it because they've had, you know, various struggles in the background, and they find that that's just a level setter or a stress reliever, or was it more so, you know, you're just very health conscious and, you know, you realize that, look, in terms of performance and longevity, and even I find it might complement your tech career in terms of keeping healthy and keeping focus. What was it exactly that was that kind of general gravity towards fitness?
Yeah, it's like, that's a great question. I suppose, like, even your point at the beginning, from the outside looking in, like, a lot of people would be like, Jesus, maybe Fran's a bit obsessed with going to the gym or so. He's obsessed or so healthy and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, I think, like, if you were actually dig under the hood a little bit, like, there's a lot of I suppose mental health struggles within my family. Like, my mum has suffered from depression, and my uncle, and I think mental health is always something that was, like, I suppose, kind of deeply rooted in the back of my mind. And when I went to the gym or started going to the gym, it did feel like this out for me, or kind of really time for myself. I'd go and stick on the headphones, listen to some music, and just tune out of everything. So, like, even, I suppose, through my career in tech sales, like 40 minutes in the gym at lunchtime, listening to music or a podcast and lifting a few weights, like, that was my kind of tune out time and kind of reset a little bit before you go back, like, into the stress of sales and all that good stuff as well. But yeah, like, I think over time I just felt like it compounded and helped me mentally. I was just able to concentrate more in work, but then on the outside as well, I just felt I was a better person. I was fitter, and then sports started going better, and, you know, even family and all that stuff as well. You're able to be more resilient. So yeah, very much for me, I think the mental aspect is huge. Yeah.
That word resilience is really interesting because it's something that comes up quite regularly, and it's one of those things where, you know, it's nearly a muscle that needs to be exercised in and of itself. You know, when you're in that high pressure career, of tech sales where you're always switched on. Then you've to go home. You've got a young family there. As you rightly so, you're kind of keeping on top of your health as well. What's your relationship been like with that term of resilience, and what does that kind of mean for you specifically?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think very much to your point, resilience, and like I'd even associate resilience with discipline, and it's something that you have to exercise and build up. I think I'd probably built up a lot of emotional resilience when I was younger and trying to deal emotionally with mental health issues in the family or so, and having to come to terms with that kind of younger. But then in terms of resilience, yeah, like when you're talking about things like COVID, and like I think we all have our lapses, or you only have a certain amount of resilience you can front up as well. So I think like there's resilience that plays into a lot of aspects of your life as well. So you might be more resilient in sport or so, but maybe not so much mentally or with your family in certain areas. But I think they can be interlinked as well. So like if you're looking after your health and doing things right, you're going to be mentally more resilient, be able to, be a better dad or husband or wife or whichever.
And so you mentioned that you had this history, let's say, of mental health in the family, and it's something that you were exposed to quite a young age. Did that form, like, how was that forming part of your character? How do you think that contributed to, some of the drive challenges, some of the burnout challenges that you then encountered later in your career?
Yeah, no, good question. I think it's probably something I've only started to, in the last probably 10 years or so, try to kind of formulate in my head. As you get older and mature, you start to kind of reflect more on it, like, what did I take out of that, or did it impact me, or is it going to impact me as a dad? But I think, yeah, like inherently, it gave me resilience in some aspect, and it probably helped me be successful in sport, and it drove success because I could push myself harder, or nearly, I don't know whether like it's the right word, but suppress emotions as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time, when I reflect on it, I wonder, like, was I suppressing emotions now, and am I still doing that as well? So a lot of things I try to do more recently is to try and maybe reflect or take a second, or try to think about how I'm feeling about things, like, so I can be more present, or like I said, even around being a better dad or husband as well. So, but yeah, I think from a positive perspective, I have this level of resilience there that's probably helped me through being successful in sport, but also successful in sales because you have to be resilient by nature. So I definitely think it's benefited me that way. But on the flip side, yeah, I do wonder if it's impacted me in relationships over the years, unbeknownst to me, that I'm not as forthcoming emotionally.
No,
Yeah.
that's something that absolutely resonates and makes sense with me. Look, that's quite an interesting point. It resonates with me in the sense that what I've sort of observed in myself is the habits that enable you to excel in the professional world and even in the fitness world to a certain extent
Yeah.
are not necessarily reconcilable with creating a sort of a harmonious home life, and it's something that I think you're kind of alluding to there a little bit. Not saying that you don't have a
No, yeah,
very nice
yeah.
home life at all. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But it's just it's a behavior pattern that I've observed of switching modes, right? And it's nearly a skill set of being able to kind of switch from, you know, Ross the salesperson, Ross the fitness person, where a degree of kind of ruthlessness is required, ruthless with your time, efficient, driven, all of that kind of stuff, to nearly trying to switch that off so that when you come home, you're at the right frequency for, your kids, you're at the right frequency for your partner. Is that has that been a journey for you as well, or have you had a different experience?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, but it's funny even, I think, like during COVID or so, where my like exercise levels dropped off and I wasn't kind of fueling my mental health in that way as well. And then like you just, your fuse is shorter and I think you're not as resilient. So, um, it can impact in that way. But yeah, then the flip side, like you said, if you're being very driven and like you're like if we're working tech sales and trying to do the fitness thing on the side as well, and dedicating all this time and trying to find enough time to bring the kids to sport and go big date night with the wife and everything as well. Yeah, definitely, yeah, you definitely need to try and balance things, but it's hard trying to balance things as such with all these different buckets. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I think for me, trying to be purposeful towards those buckets,
Mm.
and yeah, it's probably only something I'm more aware of in the last kind of couple of years or so as well.
Do you ever struggle with sort of feelings of guilt? Because it's something I've heard a lot of parents kind of challenge with. Less so men, but I think men are starting to have those conversations now a little bit more, where it's a case of kind of having to pick your poison. In that, on one hand, I want my family to be financially secure, and that requires long hours, a lot of hard work, but then I'm sacrificing, to your point, that quality time with your kids and your partner. And an awful lot of people, they kind of just feel guilty no matter what they do. Do you have any experience with that, or have you kind of reconciled that? Are you kind of at peace and you sort of, well, you just have to pick your poison, and that's just how life is?
No, and like, yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think that's part and parcel of being a parent, though. I don't I like it. I think there's always like you're always looking for ways to improve it, or like sometimes you're like you working your ass off or so, or burning the kettle on too much, and then you have to do bedtime reading the kids stories for an hour and a half, and you could be cursing it going into it. You're like, the last thing I want to do now is go and but then like at the end of it, they giving you a hug or a cuddle or whichever at the end of it, and it's kind of all forgotten about. But you'll kill yourself for giving out that you had to do it in the first place, or do these little things. So I think, like in terms of family and kids, they've like this unbelievable knack of grounding you. I think aligning you to what actually matters. And yeah, I think a lot of these conversations we're even having now, you kind of start reflecting a little bit on yourself, and yeah, you're going down these rabbit holes of guilt and thinking about how you could make their life better and be less selfish or so as well. But yeah, I feel like that's just part of the gig. You're probably going to be guilty forever more.
Pick your poison.
Yeah, exactly.
So you walk me through then that first sort of encounter with turbulence then, right? So you've had a good career in tech sales, you've been keeping fit and healthy, and then am I right in thinking it was COVID in terms of a chronological order, that was kind of the first sort of speed bump in terms of potential burnout, or was there a different kind of critical event that caused you to kind of hit the pause button and do a sort of a level set?
Yeah, I think I've probably had so many different speed bumps in my life, but I think, yeah, I think like, yeah, a lot of things came part and parcel when I mentioned the kind of mental health stuff. But I think more recently, and I think what was a real grounding moment was there was a guy on my team that I knew. He was kind of a few years younger than me. He had he had a 3 year old. We both had a kid the same age or so, and like we kind of confided in each other as well. As you do, you're kind of getting um, closer, and then there was just like we were kind of hanging out in the office one day having lunch, and went down to the market or something and grabbed some food, and he was complaining about stomach pains or something, and I kind of shrugged it off saying he's got Crohn's disease. was kind of slagging himself off, the usual Irish thing, self-deprecating. But then, like a couple of days later, he was out sick, and he went and got it. Went in to get a checkup with the GP or doctor or so. But like a couple of days later, then we heard he has stage 4 cancer, and yeah, God, and that just absolutely floored me, and I think, yeah, anyone who heard the story is pretty, yeah, still pretty hits home. But anyway, he's such a positive person. Like he's one of those people who kind of radiates positivity, and like there was no there was no stopping him thinking about how he's going to try recover or get over things as well. And it was kind of around this time then I was like, I don't know, I was on the back end, the tail end, I was doing this challenge, 75 hard, where like when you mentioned COVID there, I was coming out of COVID, I was kind of feeling mentally a bit kind of unstable, and I needed a bit of a reset. So I was in the middle of this challenge. This happened with my friend Nick there as well. And then like there's this quote I remember, it was interesting. I was reading Atomic Habits, and there was just this line. I don't want to be cliche with one of these books, but there was this line saying like if aliens flew down to the Earth and just observed you, would they be able to understand who you are by your actions? And I don't know. There was kind of like a perfect storm of all of these things, and I was kind of like, you know, I need to be I need to be doing more. I need to be helping people, and anyway, I went on and I got qualified in. I was doing a financial course at the time in UCD, one of these evening courses, but I was like, I need to. Fitness is what I'm passionate about, and I want help people with health, and like even for me with mental health, and trying to get people involved and see the benefits that I've kind of adopted throughout my life. So I became a qualified PT while I was doing the financial course, and then I did a strength and conditioning course as well. But yeah, I was yeah, it's still hard to even like say that out loud. I think even going through that period, like Nick passed away after 4 months of being diagnosed, and I think what was even like you couldn't even believe, you couldn't write it. In some ways, it was just like horrifying. But he had a second kid on the way then that was born like the Christmas after he passed away. It's like he just, yeah, God, it makes you just appreciate what you have, and your health, and your, you know, you can't take it for granted. It can just go in a flash. Yeah, so
that's it. It's really heavy to process that, and at the same time keep showing up for all of the different roles that you play in life. Did you,
yeah.
when that was sort of unfolding and you passed, did you take a time to kind of dial everything down, or did you move in the other way and just dial everything up and take that as a sign of, I'm going to live life to the max, I'm going to put everything on 100 now, and you know, go hell for leather at this thing, because you know, tomorrow's just not guaranteed? You know, what sort of avenue did you find yourself exploring?
Yeah, like I think, yeah, I definitely dialed things up to the max. I was like, I'm gonna do like everything I can, or learn everything I can. I don't know if you've read David Goggins' books or anything as well. I made the mistake of reading those at the time as well. So I was like, I was doing that challenge, the 75 hard challenge. I was like working out twice a day, doing the PT course, doing the financial course, trying to juggle all that with the family and going to friends' weddings, and but yeah, I was literally on full throttle then, trying to launch the PT business online, and get new clients and get ramped up with everything it is to learn about a business. But yeah, I was just bring it on. I want to help people. I want to make an impact. And I suppose a lot of that was kind of fueled by Nick, and it still is, I think, to this day as well.
And do you think kind of meeting the moment with that level of intensity in hindsight was the right move, or would you do anything differently looking back on it now?
Yeah, I think, yeah. Like in some sense, it's such a, it's exhilarating when you kind of feel like you're operating at a level that you didn't think you could operate at. Um, but at the same time, like I definitely, I came to a point where I burnt myself out. Like I used to joke with people or some of my close clients that they'd ask me like, how the hell are you doing this? And I'd say to them, I'm just going to keep doing it till I burn myself out, which was completely wrong way to go about things. And even in terms of like practicing what I preach and how I try to talk about people balancing and structuring exercise and rest and recovery and everything. So like, it shouldn't have been any different than me. Um, I think I kind of forgive myself for doing that because I've maybe going back to the point earlier about resilience and cutting out emotions. Maybe that was the foundation that I just found easy for me to deal with it when maybe I wasn't really dealing with it. But yeah, then I kept operating like that as well. I started kind of burning myself out. We were trying to move house. I was also eager. I was like, I wanted to get a bigger space to be able to train clients in a bigger garage. And I'd taken on the most amount of clients online that I had since I'd started. And even my role at Salesforce and everything had ramped up, had got more stressful. I was like, the thing was, I was doing well. I was overachieving target and all that. So like, it felt like on the surface everything was good, but I just felt like the life out of me was kind of draining, and I couldn't put my finger on it. So then I thought, what better than to start going back and play 11-side football. So one of the Salesforce guys anyway decided to get me along, and I was like, maybe that's what I'm missing. I'm missing a bit of competition. I haven't played team sports in 7 or 8 years. Maybe that's what this kind of edge or so I'm missing. So anyway, I went back to playing football. I was kind of happy. I started getting that buzz. Started getting lots of injuries, though, that I didn't anticipate. That made me definitely feel a little less resilient and older in your 40s. But I did really enjoy it. But like, again, I was still, after a few months that started kind of wearing off, and I was like, there's still something not right in my head. I can't figure out what it was. And like, I remember even looking up randomly, like, could I take a sabbatical or something from work, or like, is that what it would be good for me or so? And then like, it's like the world is like listening to me or something. It was like a cup final. We were playing the football, and I basically broke my leg in 2 places, broke my shin and my ankle. I think I've never really had serious injuries like that, but the crazy thing is, like, I nearly feel like it was a kind of a blessing in disguise, because it made me just like slow down and stop, and literally I had to like sit with myself on the couch for weeks, and do a lot of soul searching, because like I said to you, a lot of the time over my life, my crutch has always been exercise and fitness to keep I suppose my mental health running. I feel anyway. So yeah, at the end, I got into the leg break, which was only 6 months ago now. So I'm still trying to recover from that. But what was great, even taking that time and reflecting, and like even talking a little bit about trying to feel more. And a lot of I think the soul searching I did was from meeting people during this time I had to slow down, but also looking into interesting things around my health, like doing a full men's screening and looking at my testosterone and all of these different things to understand my body better. And yeah, no, I think all in all, the breaking my leg was actually quite a positive experience, but it was pretty mentally challenging at the same.
That's there's a couple of things on that kind of story arc that are really interesting that I'd be keen to explore. Before I do, there's a really interesting data point that I think not an awful lot of men are aware of around testosterone, especially when you have a young family.
Yeah.
And it's only something that I've come across in the last sort of year or so, that when men have a family, your testosterone level naturally takes a dip. And part of it feeds into where the whole dad bod kind of culture comes from. But it's also, when men feel like we feel like we're just aging so much since we've had kids. But there's there's an evolutionary reason for that, right? In terms of, let's dial down his testosterone so that he's a bit more caring and compassionate at the 4 a.m., whenever he's getting up to change nappies and do whatever, duties that need to be done. So your partner can kind of recover as best she can as well. But an awful lot of the time we misinterpret that temporary dialing down of testosterone as introducing different things like a little bit of depression kind of creeps in, a bit of mental health creeps in that most men don't talk about. And for some it's temporary, for some it's not, and they need to kind of explore that and kind of monitor. But it's one of those things that I think an awful lot of guys now are very quick to, I need TRT. It's going to solve all my problems. It's a fountain of youth. I just get me on some testosterone there and bring that up, And they don't sort of slow down and interrogate it a little bit more. But I always think that's just, it's an interesting thing. I can't kind of tell men enough about that, of like, testosterone ebbs and flows. It's not always going to be up here, but it will come back. It won't come back to the previous levels it was, but it will come back up to where you feel a little bit more like yourself.
I know. Yeah.
It's something that people are only kind of starting to catch on to. But what are we keen to explore there? So, I mean, you've mentioned there, so you got the PT course, you got the finance course, your everything is dialed up to 100, and you start to suspect that you're burning out. Very often, those around us will notice it before we will. Did you have anyone trying to warn you, in terms of your partner, your colleagues, anyone in your life that was like, Fran, maybe, you might want to take the foot off the accelerator a little bit?
Yeah, I think even I suppose when I was saying at the beginning, like there was a few people kind of jokingly in typical Irish fashion were, kind of like nudge, nudge. Yeah, yeah. But like, I just thought I was being like,
Doing what you're
I
supposed to.
don't, yeah, you're like, I thought, oh, like I'm trying to be this figure, or like I'm trying to launch this PT business, or so I need to look the part or show that I'm like invincible in some sense of the word. So I wouldn't have let really people in that regard. I always would have tried to shrug it off, even if I was kind of struggling to an extent.
Did imposter syndrome ever creep in a little bit then? Just going off of what you've just said. Like, again, you think it's nearly, the way you talk about it is nearly like you're having to cultivate that persona, or that external perception of people. But
Yeah.
behind the curtain, you're it says like anyone, you run out of fuel. And did you feel like that at the time, or even looking back?
Yeah, like all the time. Like I remember, I even remember like one of my cousins as well trying to give me pep talks to like get me to post videos and stuff on Instagram, just to like get people engaged, or talk about client stories and wins and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, like a lot of the time, and then you're always looking at you. the worst thing you can do is try compare yourself to other people as well. And like, are my credentials enough, or, do I need to do the next thing, or do I need to specialize in this? Or so like, yeah, I think it's a fundamental flaw, I think, in me anyway, or in our humanity, that you're always looking for the next thing, like. But at the same time, I think, like, for me, authenticity and like integrity is something that I always want to have. Like, you don't want to portray yourself in the wrong light as well. So that would play into the kind of imposter syndrome that, it's hard when you're trying to launch a business or tell this story, but you don't want to be, or pretend to be, this kind of influencer or yeah, just put yourself in the wrong light, I think.
Yeah, I mean, those things always end up falling apart at some stage or another anyway, right? I mean, we've been around long enough to see the plenty of idols fall over the years.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. I hear an awful lot of people have a similar experience where they're coming up to burnout, where the universe kind of forces them to sit and, to a certain extent, confront those demons. Walk me through that process with you. I'd be keen to just learn about, how did you wrestle? What did you have to wrestle with, and how did you, what conclusion did you come to at the end of that conversation with yourself?
Yeah, I think, like, in typical fashion, like when I broke my leg, and I was going, I have to have surgery, and went home, and they were kind of saying, oh, it's like 5-6 months recovery. But like, I was even in touch with my manager, being like, I'll probably be back in 2 weeks or so, or 3 weeks, and I will keep into, like, I was probably still quite medicated at this stage, so I'm not sure what I was actually typing, but yeah, the first few weeks, there was a little bit of the novelty of, like, breaking your leg, and like, everyone's been like, can't believe you broke your leg, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I get to watch all these movies that I haven't seen, or movies I haven't seen since I was a kid or so. After a few weeks of that, like, you're bored to death. You're just like, you can't deal with this, and you start kind of feeling lethargic, and like, then you're like, you can't do simple things for the kids, or you can't help your wife out with school runs, or and yeah, it quickly starts to turn a corner, and you start feeling a little bit useless, and yeah, not yourself, like, or what's your kind of like purpose or identity to some extent. But then there was a few kind of sparks of light then, where like, people started dropping in. Like, one of the lads, so the captain of the team, dropped in and had a card from the team or so, and wishing you well. And then lots of, like, even friends or so, that, like, lads can be terrible at catching up at the best of times. Even trying to organise points at this stage is a nightmare. But loads of them just started asking me, do you want to have a coffee or catch up? And I was free, so they'd drop in. My mum and dad are from Kilkenny as well, and they're a bit more elderly, so it's kind of harder for them to travel, but it was easier for them to travel up during the week or so, and traffic was less, so they dropped in more. I got to see them more and hang out with and spend more quality time with them. And then even some kind of friends or cousins, like, all of these things, these relationships, or you really start to reflect on the community, or the people around you. These relationships are just, like, invaluable. Yeah, it really made me kind of take a step back and think about, the wider community and these relationships, rather than going hell for leather and trying to do everything all the time. I'm still guilty of it now, but I'm trying to be more actively reflecting, or being more present, and trying to meet these people, and hopefully more of these relationships will flourish, and give energy to them as well, be purposeful with them.
Well, when you were in the throes of dialing everything up to 100, did you actually find it quite lonely and quite isolating then? But it's a little bit like the frog in the saucepan, where the temperature gradually rises and he doesn't even realize his cooking at a certain stage. Did you find a little bit of that, where you're actually, when you have this hard reset and you reflect back, it's like, Jesus, I had no relationships whatsoever then. What was
Yeah.
that experience? Was that quite profound for you, or was it, how did that sort of manifest?
Yeah, like I probably at the time, like I wouldn't have felt. It's only when you kind of stop to slow down, you kind of realize it. Um, but yeah, like I'd find myself then like looking up. I remember like every couple of weeks or so, I'd be looking up fitness groups or looking at local CrossFit gyms or gyms as well that I could maybe join and become part of a community or so. Um, so like I suppose that in a way led me to go into the football route as well, because like there was in a sense maybe that loneliness in the background. And I was like, I feel like I'm thriving for this. Um, so yeah, like even it can be great when you're working with lots of clients, but a lot of the clients I was working with were online, and you don't necessarily have as close a relationship as you do when you're working with clients in person. And that's something I love. I love the community aspect and being with a group of people. And so, yeah, that's led in a lot of way to the fitness retreats that we just launched recently as well. So hopefully we can make that a success. But it'd be amazing just to get people together and to build a little community. And I suppose to learn even from some of my mistakes, to kind of slow down and reset, and kind of reflect a little bit, but also have a bit of crack and do some good workouts as well in the sunshine. But,
So that, I mean, that's actually really interesting point, and I'm keen to learn more. So this is the Reset Clan, and it's from where I'm sitting, it looks like an accumulation of all of these life events has just led you to
yeah.
this conclusion. Talk me through the mission then. What are you hoping to deliver with the Reset Clan? What's the challenge that you're solving for people out there?
Yeah, well, I think on that point, it's like giving people like a circuit breaker or a reset. So just to give yourself a week like that. We all work hard, or even over the years, a lot of people go and have blowouts, or they go out and nights out, or they go on a boozy holiday or so. But we don't think like you don't come back after one of those trips and feel rejuvenated or ready to go again. So like the purpose here is to spend a week with like-minded people. Um, it's not meant to be like a boot camp or kill you or something for a week and good luck. We want it to be able to chill out in like elite or luxury accommodation and be looked after for a week, but feel healthy and good in the week, and then come back, ready to go and refreshed for your family or your friends, and build a community. I think a lot of what I've realized over the years is whether it's playing team sport or even, when my leg is broken and seeing people or so, or being part of group gym setups. So, it's so important to have a community around you to help you both mentally and physically. Yeah, if we can persuade a few people to come on this and to start looking after themselves for a week or more, hopefully, that would be great.
And do you bring people then through workshops? Because, I mean, I know a lot of founders and a lot of professionals where, again, it's that stereotypical, it's the dark humor about
Yeah.
burnout and the heart palpitations and the anxiety and all of that. And um, we all know at a conscious level that we need to take that circuit breaker, as I think that's the exact right term, is
Yeah.
to take that circuit breaker so that you pause the chronic stress periods. But we kick that stone down the road and we kind of think, it's probably not going to be me, So we know on a conscious level, we know that that's the right thing to do. But at a subconscious level, we probably say to ourselves, I just push a little bit further, a little
Yeah.
bit further. What, having had the experience that you've had, what would you say to those people to switch that from, let's say, consciously knowing it to, I now know this emotionally, which, as you and I know from a background in sales, decisions are made emotionally.
Yeah.
What would you say to them to kind of get them thinking in the right frame of mind about it?
Yeah, I think like you need to be purposeful in dedicating time to it. Like unless you take the time, like you can't really recognize it. So like given my examples there, a lot of the time I just blazed on through and maybe not even giving myself the bandwidth to recognize that I was burning myself out. Where if you can, like, we're only positioning like 1 week and in a whole year, if you can dedicate a few days to yourself to just to try and slow down and think about it, I think that's the first step. And like, I suppose even for our week, we're not there to teach people about burnout or what the right way to do. But I think what's really important is to be around similar people and everyone to share their stories. And you might take a nugget from this person, you might take another nugget from this other person. So it'll be very much an open forum. Like there will be some elite coaches, and I'll be coaching and stuff there as well. But yeah, I never feel like I'd want to lecture people on the right approach, because there is so many experts out there, and I think everyone has their own kind of journey to take as well and recognize it in their own.
So you kind of have a retreat then for people where I guess there's a blueprint, right? It's not every hour is kind of prescribed. You've got a degree of your own discretion, let's say,
Yeah.
to decide how you want to recharge. And because
Yeah.
with some people, to your point, recharging looks like, I want to go to the gym for a couple of hours, I want to go for a run. Others, I just want to read, I just want to sit down on the beach, and relax. So it's different for different people. So you're kind of trying to create that space to facilitate however you recharge. You're going to be able to do that with a loose blueprint of structure to the week to come back renewed and ready for the next round that life throws at them, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So ideally take away a lot of the pain or so when you go on a trip, but then have all of these amazing options. Like from our perspective, there's a luxury, like it's a luxury trip, or like nearly once in a lifetime for some people. But yeah, it's very much all inclusive, and you kind of pick and take what you want. And I think what's incredible is this space was like built by this professional CrossFit guy. So like there's not many places that will have like a pool and villa and a functional fitness place attached to the same location. So like if people wanted to sit and read a book at the pool, or go and do a workout, or run down to the beach and do cliff diving, like we're very lucky to even come across this place, I think, in the first place. So hopefully we can make enough people aware of it that we can make a success of it, because it's pretty incredible setup, really.
Yeah, well, I was telling you, my wife would be over there in a heartbeat anyway.
Yeah.
Getting her to take a seat is again, it's something that we both structure. I'm nearly thinking that it nearly feels generational at this stage, where everyone I speak to, like I'll do this stupid thing where she'll be watching something on television, and instead of coming in and sitting down, I'll stand in the door. And as soon as she invites me to sit down, I'll be, oh no, I'm busy. I'm going to do something over here. I was like, just sit down. You're being an idiot. It's those weird sort of, habits. And I don't know, it's probably something in childhood. We've no idea where it comes up, but it's definitely something that we could all do with being a little bit more aware of, I think.
I think of your own being a little bit selfish, because even it goes back to, I think you were saying at the beginning about that guilt. It's kind of that guilt where, did I put on the washing machine, or am I meant to be hanging the kids' clothes up or something? Or when it'd probably benefit you to sit down for 5 or 10 minutes to actually recharge the batteries a bit. Yeah.
I've heard many people say that your sort of your self care, or whatever term people want to use, it's a little bit like that notice that you see on airplanes about putting your own mask on first
Yeah,
before you
yeah,
put anyone else's mask on. And even, myself and Steph will talk about to our clients about, you can't fill anyone else's cup up if your cup is empty, right? So you're sort of robbing the long term to pay for short term gain. It's not conducive. But again, we know this logically, but we
yeah.
don't always reconcile it emotionally. How do you stop some of those old habits creeping back in then? Because that's always, we go through these periods of kind of profound and often painful lessons that resonate, but sometimes given enough time, some of those lessons can kind of be a bit forgotten. What are
Yeah.
some of the habits that have stayed with you and that you try to implement just to kind of keep yourself centered, so that you know when to put the foot down, but more importantly, you know when to take the foot off the gas as well?
Yeah, yeah. Like there's funny things like, well, like there's the standard things where like some of the people I started meeting up with when I broke my leg, I'm trying to keep meeting them regularly or keep in contact, or coffees or so as well. And like I would have talked to them about some of this stuff. So I think, your friends and your support structure is really important. Like I think even one of them I was in touch with today, joking about being an accountability buddy or something. Like, but I think that's really important. And then like there's a funny little trigger. It might sound silly in a way, but I even remember when I was off and we were talking to someone about being more present, and there's this robin I started noticing every day that used to arrive at the house or would come up near the window or so. My granddad used to feed a robin seeds from his hand. It always makes me think of him, like when he passed away. So I see this robin every now and again. It comes back the back door or something. So I try to be like, that's my trigger. Like, am I being present? Am I like trying to have a coffee outside and listen to the birds for 2 or 3 minutes? Or yeah. So I think like might sound silly in a way, but I'm trying to, I suppose, either get friends to support me or get me thinking like that, or use little silly kind of wildlife triggers as well. But it helps anyway.
No, that actually it actually makes a lot of sense. That's
Yeah.
I know it. I can tell you it does, because it's different triggers for different people, and it's
Yeah.
it's whatever mechanism that causes you to actually pause, right, and just take a breath, and to maybe reflect, and I suppose hold a mirror up to your own face as well, to a certain extent, and see,
Yeah.
am I making the right decisions, or am I just being a bit busy because I feel good when I'm busy, because I feel like I'm being productive rather
Yeah.
than being effective. There's that difference, I guess. What would be some of the advice that you would give for somebody who finds themselves not as far along the path as you? Maybe they're a couple of steps behind. What message would you like them to hear from this conversation above all else?
Yeah. I think without a shadow of a doubt, there's someone going through a struggle that they know or is in their circle. And that I think try and be a little bit open, or try and have that conversation, or open up to these people, because yeah, I think it can help you even more than just even talking about it. Also, what was useful for me as well, I probably didn't mention earlier, I've talked to like coaches as well. There was a great thing, I engaged even with Better Up at a time as well, and talked about coaching, and trying to even think about my purpose, or what kind of things make you happier or so. But even when I was off with the leg as well, it's just talking to people or coaches, and again, it all helps. But yeah, I think speaking to people, trying to open up is, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, the best thing you can do.
It's something that, it's a habit probably that needs to be learned more so than anything else, because again, it's I don't know whether it's an Irish male thing or what, but we're lousy at it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah. But But also, like, COVID was a shit show as well in that respect. Like I even see it. My parents are obviously getting more elderly and everything now as well. But um, like it can be more pronounced when you're older as well because your circles are maybe not as big. But yeah, you can easily just kind of not connect with people or so as well. In a way, I was lucky to break my leg that I did actually start speaking to more people again.
Makes sense. Where can people find you and find more information about your new venture, the Reset Clan?
Yeah, I'd love them to check it out. www.theresetclan.com. I also have there's a PT Instagram I have as well. It's just Fran Lee PT on Instagram, and then we have the same handle, the Reset Clan, on Instagram as well. So me and my co-founder buddy Paul are trying to ramp that up. So if there's any followers or people want to spread the love there, that's always appreciated as well.
Good stuff. Great stuff. Brilliant. Well, look, Fran, I really appreciate it. As I said, I think your story is very interesting, and there's lots of really good advice to kind of steer people. I think it's fascinating, your arc of going through that sort of trauma of losing one of your close friends to, right, I'm now going to dial everything up to 100, to actually now having a far more nuanced interpretation of what it means to sort of live life to the fullest. It doesn't always mean that I need to be going 1,000 miles an hour, 24 hours a day. It's a bit more
Nuance or balance.
Is the right word, right? It's the environment, it's the people that you're in, it's the relationships that you have, as well as what you're achieving, because that certain characteristics are innate in us as well, in terms of just being driven, but it's making that work for you rather than dialing it up to the level where too much of anything is kind of bad for you. So just really appreciate you sharing the story, and I've no doubt the Reset Clan is going to be really interesting, so I'll be putting the wife onto it and things of it, and we'll keep going. But again, thanks a million.
No, I appreciate it. No, thanks. Great conversation. Hopefully speak to you again soon as well. Cheers, man.
Hello. If you found this conversation helpful, we would really appreciate it if you could give it a thumbs up, or maybe consider subscribing to the channel. Oh, and if there's a topic that you'd like us to explore in a future episode of the FitBoss Podcast, why don't you let us know in the comments? We would love to hear your ideas. Thank you for listening.